in Raleigh, North Carolina. Not Minneapolis, Minnesota. As horrific as it is that has been the central location originally for these riots, but elsewhere in the country too, including Raleigh, North Carolina, chaos has ensued with mass destruction. See what's happening to some businesses there over the weekend.
Peaceful protests turned violent as looters smashed through windows and doors of downtown Raleigh stores. Dozens of people broke into businesses, stealing clothing, merchandise, and even setting fires on Salisbury Street. Some shop owners stayed and pleaded with looters to stop. Moments later, Raleigh police officers threw tear gas to break up large groups of people, destroying buildings. But other protesters maintained peace to get their point across, holding signs.
So that's a little bit from the streets of Raleigh, North Carolina over the weekend. One of the businesses you saw busted apart there is owned by Rick French, who is one of the owners of French West Vaughan, a PR firm. Also is co-owner of the Daytona Tortugas baseball team and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a film producer, and so much more. But Rick French joins us now for a perspective that I thought we all needed to hear. Rick, my friend, welcome to the show. It is so good to have you today. Despite the circumstances, I'm grateful for you sharing your story about what has happened to your business, and I'm so sorry. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it, buddy. So you'll see behind me, I'm sitting in our lobby, the boarded up windows that you saw smashed in that video clip. I'm on the inside today. There's a little much noise outside with a lot of sawing and people boarding up their windows. You know, we had 2 nights of extraordinary violence and looting and rioting, and we suffered, as you can see in that clip, pretty serious damage Saturday night, and then again last night there was additional damage. So it's been a long 48 hours of I think the worst of humanity, but also the best of humanity. The number of volunteers that have come out to help board up windows and offer drinks and words of encouragement and delivering food to those of us in downtown Raleigh who were affected by this. It was hard to go through, but it's also nice to see the community rallying around itself to say that this kind of behavior is not okay.
Well, Rick French, I was monitoring your social media, your Facebook page over the weekend on Saturday, just deeply distraught watching, and then it happened again on Sunday. And as I recall, Saturday, you didn't see any evidence of police showing up to try to deal with the chaos. In fact, you hired private security, as I recall, to help address the situation and try to bring some safety to your own establishment. But tell us a little bit about the police presence or lack thereof.
Yeah, there was none. This is hard because, I've been a member of the downtown community for 23 years and have invested a lot of time and energy and money in renovating a historic building to become our headquarters. And I think that the police orders were to stand down and not engage the rioters, and so therefore they were allowed to go unchecked with sledgehammers and bats, and that literally every single glass window in downtown Raleigh, bar none, is broken. They went through what they didn't do Saturday night, they went through last night and broke. They set fires in the streets. They tried to burn buildings down. The rioters went unchecked because police were instructed not to engage it and inflame the situation worse. So the business community was left to hang, and that's what happened. And the mayor is another call. The mayor is a friend of mine. I love her and respect her, but she did not act quickly enough to put a curfew in place like some other cities did, and therefore protests were allowed to form, and as night fell, it just turned to unchecked violence. And I did. My nephew is a former Raleigh police officer and SWAT team member who's now in another city. So he came with his firearms, flak jackets, and so on, and we protected the building against looters coming in all night on Saturday night until we could get it boarded up on Sunday morning. And it was difficult. It was scary. We were not sure if we were going to make it through the night the way that people were trying to come through the windows after breaking through them. We did. Fortunately, we were safe. I woke up Sunday morning after 2 hours of sleep and found pieces of glass that were from the shattered windows embedded in my forehead and my scalp and in a couple pieces in my arms.
Oh, dear. Not
even realizing through the adrenaline of the night that had happened. I knew it had been cut, but I didn't know, that I had it up in the forehead. So Sunday morning, I was cleaning that up before boarding the windows. So said it's been rough, but it's been rough in cities around the country. But as you said earlier, these are not protests. This is an excuse to riot. I support the Black Lives Matter. I support everything about that messaging, all lives matter. But what has happened in these communities after dark is not about protests, peaceful protests, and having their voices heard. This is solely about an excuse to commit crime. And that's what we've seen here, and it's sad.
Well, we've got some images that we're going through here. We could put up a few more from your Facebook page. Hope you don't mind. I wanted to show some of what was going on. This is Rick French, our guest, his establishment, French West Vaughan. Is it that, or was it another business?
It was French West Vaughan. I
run
pre-productions in a lot of companies that I own out of our headquarters here. We have a headquarters building that takes up most of a city block, and what you're seeing in those photos is old storefronts, but then behind that is just an entrance area, is multiple stories of buildings that houses our employees. So it's a little deceiving. It looks like a storefront kind of from the beginning. That's the look we wanted.
Yeah.
But it's there's a lot of about 18,000 square feet behind that of offices and so on that have been, we're one of the oldest standing buildings in Raleigh on the city's historically black street. And we have parts of our building that were renovated to honor that heritage and that history. And none of that really mattered on Saturday or Sunday night. So it's I don't know what message you get across in burning down your community, in damaging your community, and in doing economic harm to the people who are trying to provide for a better quality of life for all people in our city.
Well put.
And I feel for so many of our businesses that, my business, a lot of our employees have been working from home because of COVID, but so many of our businesses have been closed due to COVID, especially the restaurants and bars that were just reopening. And literally there is not a single, and I mean this sincerely, there is not a single restaurant or bar in downtown Raleigh that was not completely vandalized and looted of all of its inventory. There's not a single retail store in downtown Raleigh that was not broken out and all of its inventory gone. These businesses that have suffered such harm economically over the last few months will not be able to reopen anytime soon. And
it's just so sad.
It's a war zone, and I don't use that term lightly. But to see it and see what has transpired. And we haven't had this is one of America's biggest growth cities over the last 2 decades. We've not had instances of protests and violence in this way. We've not had situations like what happened in Minneapolis. And there have been questions about police tactics as it related to a shooting of a man several years ago. The police produced evidence to show that he had a knife and was wielding the knife toward him. So I don't look, I think we can't undo hundreds of years of social injustice here. All of us support the fact that the Black community needs a better voice, and that they need to be heard in their concerns. And we as a business support that, but we don't support vigilantism and taking it out on companies and individuals that don't have anything to do, in my opinion, with that suppression of their rights. Quite the contrary.